Good evening, coming to you live from the Standard Group Centre. This is KTN Weekend Prime. You're in time for the Point of News. Many thanks for joining us this 12th day of April 2015. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole.
And I'm John Alanamu. Of course, on Sundays we have Checkpoint. Yvonne Okwara is going to be handling quite an interesting discussion. And the discussion evolved. Well, I shouldn't say evolved. It is an anniversary. But the discussion sort of started online.
Yes.
And
on social media.
On social media.
And that's what we have.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about.
Two big hashtags.
Yeah.
So they've been put in order of chronology because this is how it unfolded.
Yeah.
2 years of hopelessness, which was mainly championed by Senator Boni Halwale. And then PSCU, as well as Dennis Itumbi, took on 2 years of success.
Yeah.
So it seems like at this point the country is polarized between these two extremes when it comes to 2 years of Jubilee in power. You're either hopeless or you're hopeful, or it's been successful for you. And the question we're asking today is there an in-between? Like, is it possible to say, well, the Jubilee government has achieved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they still need to do 7, 8, 9, 10. But this is obviously an issue that people feel very passionately about. These were two very passionate and opinionated hashtags. And that's the question we're asking. Are you hopeful? Or are you hopeless when it comes to Jubilee's 2 years in power? The hashtag we're using is Checkpoint on social media. Our panelists tonight, we're trying to involve a lot more females just to get women who have cogent opinions. Today we have Priscilla Nyakabi, who's the Member of Parliament for Nyeri County, as well as John Mbadi, who's Member of Parliament for Suba and the Chairman of the Orange Democratic Movement. And we invite your views on that. We'll be taking a look at some of the statistics, some of that was put forward. And we're asking you that question. How would you rate Jubilee government 2 years in office?
Oh yeah, definitely an interesting discussion. I'd sincerely like to know what this in-between is over here and be able to define it for the country going forward, what needs to be done with the Jubilee government. Of course, there are other stories that we have been following today, including the send-off of a number of those students who passed away on April the 2nd in Garissa. Here now the highlights on KTN Weekend Prime.
Wanafunzi ambao wanaishi ghorofa la 6 wengi wao waliamka na wakaamua kuruka kama njia moja kuepuka.
The main cable from the transformer blew up and there were 3 blasts.
Student killed and over 100 are injured in Kikuyu campus security scare.
You cannot keep on criticizing national security organs, National Intelligence Service, KTN, Kenya Police, and you are a lawmaker.
And keep politics out of security issues, Nkaiseri now cautions.
30 years is a long time, especially when it is beyond doubt that now the refugee camps are being used as havens for these terrorists and criminals.
Watu 600,000, how are they going to be shifted within a period of 3 months?
Plus, the debate rages on whether to close or not to close the Dadaab refugee camp.
And several Garissa attack victims are laid to rest. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Maresha Awiti. Thank you very much for joining us on the Point of News. Now, 1 student died and 168 others sustained injuries following a security scare at the University of Nairobi's Kikuyu campus.
Several students jumped through the windows of their hostel rooms while many were caught up in a stampede as they ran away following an explosion of a power transformer which they mistook for a terror attack.
1 student is still admitted in hospital in critical condition while 4 have undergone surgery.
Catching on to his X-ray report, Harun Njoroge walks back to his room at Kimberley Hostel of the University of Nairobi's Kikuyu campus. The last time he left here, it was not through the stairs.
I jumped from 2nd floor.
He is lucky to be back in his room. At the back of the hostel, this tooth and the broken windows perhaps tell the story of just how desperate the situation was following the dawn security scare. Several students jumped through the windows of their rooms. One of them was Francis Maina Mwangi. The third-year Bachelor of Arts in Education student had been sleeping in this bed in room 523 on the 5th floor of Kimberley Hostel when panic gripped the students. He jumped 5 floors down and landed on the concrete below. He died while being rushed to hospital.
I was wounded in my hands, and so when we arrived at the KTN hospital, he was pronounced dead. We went to KTN police station, we made a statement there. The OCS from Kikuyu came, and then we took him to mortuary, Chiromo mortuary.
Maina, whom friends described as a very focused student, was preparing to go for teaching practice in Muranga. It all started here, outside Kimberley Hostel, which hosts close to 2,600 students in the 650 rooms, each shared by at least 4 students.
The main cable from the transformer blew up, and there were 3 blasts.
To many of the students, an electric fault was the last thing on their minds.
I thought it was a grenade.
I thought it was a very big grenade.
Engineers were later on in the morning on the ground trying to fix the fault. But at dawn, the students were not taking any chances.
When I woke up, I had a loud scream that was probably made by a lady that was screaming Al-Shabaab.
The screaming sent the students into panic. Some ran down the stairs of the 6-story hostel, but one of the exits proved too small.
There was a stampede in the hostel as students tried to exit, occasioning injuries.
113 students were rushed to the Kenyatta National Hospital, 54 to the PCEA Kikuyu Hospital, and 1 to the Karen Hospital. 1 student was said to be in critical condition, while 4 underwent surgery. Majority of the students sustained soft tissue and fracture injuries, and by early evening, 116 students had been treated and discharged. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaiseri says that it is reckless of politicians to discuss in public issues of national security. Nkaiseri says instead lawmakers should be volunteering any information they have with relevant authorities. And on the impasse surrounding the police recruitment, the CS says those who are to report for training today are encouraged to participate in a new exercise slated for the 20th of this month. Aaron Ochieng reports.
After the nullification by the courts of last year's police recruitment, Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaiseri says those who are to report for training are encouraged to reapply, and that the cancellation does not bar them from participating in the fresh exercise. The National Police Service Commission on Friday said the fresh recruitment will be conducted on April 20th, and the training will commence immediately after the recruitment exercise.
Those who are recruited 2014 are also free to report to the recruitment station for them to be recruited.
But even with the directive that stopped the commencement of the training that was meant to start today, a number of the recruits still reported at the Kiganjo Training College, arguing that they were following the president's directive. The recruits said it will be unfair if another exercise is conducted before theirs is determined, adding that they too went through a due process, but they have been denied a chance to join the police force.
Baya sana na pia najua wengine bado tu ndivyo tu wanaishi. Hata saa nashangaa nikirudi nitakuwa sasa maskini yoyoye. Sasa nimeacha ile akiba nilikuwa nimejiwekea, nimeharibu kazi ile nilikuwa nimesimama.
Tumehangaika sana tangu tuchukuliwe. Juu tulikuwa tunanunua hata vitu zingine expensive zenye tuliandikiwa tukuje nazo.
The recent move could be seen as a gesture to avoid a clash between the judiciary and the executive, which on Tuesday communicated its displeasure over the presidential directive, which conflicted with an ongoing court process. Further still, Interior CS has warned politicians against what he termed as careless remarks that they make in public touching on security. Nkaiseri says anyone who thinks he has information that will help secure the country should volunteer the same to relevant authorities.
It is very unpatriotic, and I want to emphasize this word, patriotism. You cannot keep on criticizing national security organs, National Intelligence Service, KTF, Kenya Police, and you are a lawmaker.
The CS also cautioned individuals who claim to be security experts against making irresponsible comments through the media. Aaron Ocheng, KTN.
Kenya will not be blackmailed into pulling its troops out of Somalia. That is the Deputy President's assertion. The country's number 2 says the presence of the Kenya Defense Forces in Somalia is the best defense in the war against terror. All this as he insisted that the Dadaab refugee camp must be closed within 3 months.
The nation and its men and women in uniform.
That the best defensive strategy is offense is not in doubt, and that is the country's counter strategy in battling Al-Shabaab. Despite various calls to withdraw Kenyan troops from Somalia, the state will not be budging just yet.
Al-Shabaab wanasema tutoke Somalia. That is true. Lakini Al-Shabaab vile vile wanasema Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, Tana River, Mombasa na Kwale ni mali yao. We are not ceding an inch of our country to any group, least of all a terrorist group.
Whenever the insurgents hit Kenya, the underlying phrase is the country to pull out its forces from Somalia. The Garissa siege being no different. A phrase that is now being replicated by the opposition leaders. Meeting US senators, CORD principals reportedly enlisted the help of the United States to aid Kenya's retreat from Somalia.
Mjadala ya kusema ya kwamba jeshi yetu itoke kule Somalia ni mjadala ya bure. Al-Shabaab ndio wanasema tutoke Somalia. Sasa wewe kiongozi wa Kenya unawezaje kuungana na Al-Shabaab kusema ya kwamba jeshi ya Kenya itoke Somalia? Kwani wewe ni Al-Shabaab?
The state remains adamant that the over 30 years Dadaab refugee camp's closure must be expedited. Kenya claims its generosity to accommodate refugees mostly from Somalia has been abused as the camp has been turned into a breeding ground for extremist ideologies to harm the country.
Let the UN scream, but Kenyans are crying. We do not want Dadaab, and we are saying clear as Kenyans. Put the wall, but put a buffer zone. Let it be Israel then. If anyone passed that buffer zone as we put up the wall, you shoot.
Your Excellency, we should not take this issue for granted anymore. Kenyans are getting fed up, women are tired of crying, and we have a government. And we are saying, take all the necessary action you need to take. We are behind you 100%.
From 1984 to date, 30 years is a long time, especially when it is beyond doubt that now the refugee camps are being used as havens for these terrorists and criminals. We have a responsibility to the people of Kenya. First and foremost, that is the responsibility of the government of Kenya, to the people of Kenya, and to everybody else thereafter.
Kenya signed a tripartite agreement with the Somali government and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees for voluntary return of Somali refugees to their country. But since the November 2013 agreement signing, only a handful of refugees have returned home, the number not exceeding 4,000 refugees.
All we are saying is that we need to reduce the time it is going to take so that we can have these people go home. They say east or west, including south and north, home is best.
This is not the time to apportion blame amongst the leaders of what has happened. I think the leaders must come together and see how best we can work together to negate the implosions that Al-Shabaab is bringing to our country.
After the terror attack on Garissa University College that left 148 people dead, the government is under intense pressure and focus to bolster homeland security. Samogina, KTN.
Still on that story, a number of questions are emerging, and one of them is it a diversionary plot or is it a genuine strategy in battling terrorism? That one big question is emerging from this debate on whether or not to close the Dadaab camp. And now, KTN's Coast reporter Francis Ontomwa examines at least one side of this story.
Mambo ya Dadaab na mambo ya refugees. Tumezungumza na watu wa UNHCR, tumewaambia hiyo kambi ambayo iko Dadaab kwa miezi mitatu wahamishe iende Somalia.
The controversial statement by Deputy President William Ruto in Nyeri has kicked off a political storm and a stinging diplomatic debate. And there are now fears that the utterances may mean doom for Kenya, given its international obligations. And the Parliamentary Caucus on Human Rights is fast in demanding that the DP recants the assertion.
Refugees, no one wants to be a refugee in his life. Everyone else can be a refugee at any time. So we really think that this kind of comments are unfortunate and are arbitrarily made. Even if the Parliament of Kenya wanted to remove Kenya out of the International Convention on Refugees, we cannot do as much because also our own constitution recognizes the fact that refugees should be taken care of.
Deputy President, mambo ya kuamka tu, alafu naanza kuropoka, Dadaab ifungwe, hii fanywe hivi, tumechoka na kudanganywa. Hatutaki mtu yote kuamka tu na kuropoka maneno hapa na pale ambao haitaleta usalama katika nchi yetu ya Kenya.
Coming against the backlash for the recent Garissa attack, the lawmakers expressed apprehension that the assertions could easily pass as diversionary by the state in facing the real monster, terrorism.
I mean, as a matter of fact, one of the main suspects in the Garissa attacks was not from a refugee camp. It's indeed a Kenyan who has gone to good schools. So I think of the mind and the view that the Deputy President should recant that statement, because we are not even sure that that remark was made in consultation with the President and other actors.
Hili ni jambo la kusikitisha sana, kwa maana yule kiongozi akizungumza kama hivyo anakaa ni kama anazungumza kwa niaba ya serikali, na tunajua kwamba hiyo sio position ya serikali.
Some coast leaders have also joined in the debate, pressing for a more reasoned approach to ending frequent attacks on Kenya.
Why after Garissa attack is when we are coming out and saying that within a period of 3 months we want 600,000 people. Watu 600,000. How are they going to be shifted within a period of 3 months?
Nimesikia Adan Duale akisema ati atapeana haya majina kwa 30 days. Na yeye amezoea kuzungumza mambo za mama zetu. I want him to know vita vya ugaidi kweli ni za mama zetu. Na lazima zitajwe haraka, kwa sababu maisha yanayopotea wa Kenya wamezaliwa na mama zetu katika nchi hii.
KOTU Secretary General Francis Atoli is among leaders who have outrightly supported the closure of the camp.
Na mimi naunga Deputy President for the first time. This is for the first time, to be honest. I've never supported him. Lakini sasa namuunga mkono kwa kusema ya kwamba ile kambi ya Dadaab ihamishwe iende Somalia.
Kenya is a signatory to the 1951 UN Refugee Convention and the 1969 OAU Refugee Convention. And whatever direction the debate takes, there will be far-reaching implications that the country will have to contend with.
Sorrow and despair followed the victims of the Garissa attack as several of them took their final journeys to their resting places this weekend. We continue to commiserate with the bereaved families, and here now is a wrap-up of some of those funerals that took place today.
Basi tukiwa hapo tumefika.
Well, the Gor Mahia and AFC Derby is always a hotly contested match, but besides the actual derby, the build-up to the kickoff is usually a sight to behold, as the fans engage in activities that leave bystanders longing for more. And Robinson Okenya was one of those bystanders who attended the derby and filed this report.
The streets of Nairobi are normally filled with a buzz whenever the Gor Mahia and AFC Derby takes place. Blue and green are the colors that can be spotted from afar. And with dance and jubilation, sets of fans from both teams set the mood before kickoff. The biggest beneficiaries of this match, aside from the fans, are the merchandisers, who have on display regalia for both teams as they seek to make a quick buck from the fans, yet to get the new jerseys.
Siku ya leo, siku ya Gor Mahia na siku ya Ingwe. Kwa vile tunauza hata wenyewe mnaona vile tunaendelea leo na tunapata hela ile tunataka.
While others set on foot to the stadium, others seek to make a statement as they seek alternative means to access the stadium. Outside the Nyayo National Stadium, the situation is no different as the fans who arrived early line up to gain access to the stadium. Today, fans of both teams freely interact at the stadium, a phenomenon which could not be attained 3 years ago.
Kwa social media, kuna watu nakusana Facebook wana interact. Alafu, do you remember last year kulikuwa na KPL fans festivals? So we get to know each other, we play together, even we work together.
Realize that this sectionalism or tribalism will not do Kenya any good. So they have decided to come together for the sake of especially Gor Mahia and the AFC Leopards fans. It's actually, those two clubs are the face of Kenya's football.
The fans are united because we are all Kenyans, we love each other, we come from the same counties, just borders kidogo, but we love each other, we intermarry and we love football.
Yes. As kickoff approaches and security is heightened, the fans wait anxiously on the queues to get a glimpse of their favorite players as the match kicks off.
For these fans, the Mashemeji Derby is not only about pride, but a day in which, in green and blue, they get to showcase their loyalty in their teams. Robinson Okenya, KTN Sports.
Kenya's hopes of witnessing a Kenyan lift the Kenya Open Golf Tournament title for the first time were halted after local sensation Dismas Ndiza finished a poor 28th at 5 under 283. This year's winners were determined through a playoff after South Africa's Hayden Porteous and Brandon Stone tied at 17 under at the close of the last round of play.
Kenya's top golfer Dismas Ndiza was among the 3 Kenyan golfers who made the cut to the last day of play at the current golf club, where he teed off, placed 10th, hoping to improve his 8 under par in the last round of play. Ndiza, who finished 10th at the 2008 Kenya Open tournament, was quite the crowd puller, with most of the home fans hoping for a good show. He, however, could not hold off pressure from home fans and kept on dropping shots to post his worst score over the 4 rounds. He closed the tournament with a 5 under 283.
Mashabiki wakikuwako ndio mimi nacheza mzuri, kwa sababu sasa najionyesha sasa mimi ndio mchezaji mzuri Kenya sasa. Sasa lazima wanifuate. Tena wote leo wamenifuata, hawajafuata wazungu bila walikuwa nafuata last year.
The tournament was on the last day reduced to a duel between long-time friends Brandon Stone, the overnight leader, and Hayden Porteous. The South Africans showed nerve to stay ahead of the field. There was nothing to separate them even up to the last round of play, where they finished tied at under 17, prompting a playoff. Porteous carded a dramatic eagle 2 at the first extra hole to edge out Brandon Stone to bag his first professional title.
It's a victory that, I'll never ever forget. Unfortunately, it had to be one of my best golfing friends. We've been together thick and thin through junior golf, amateur golf and pro golf, and to win like that was maybe not the best, but a win is a win.
He's 1 year younger than me, so we've played basically our whole careers together, and to have us two in the playoff is quite special. And I said to him, it's a moment we'll never forget.
The completion of the 2015 edition of the Kenya Open Golf Tournament here at the current golf club means that the wait for Kenyan to lift this title continues. But the real question remains, can a Kenyan golfer lift the Kenya Open title?
It's very possible for a Kenyan to win the Kenya Open, but
our preparation and the way the course has been set during our normal tour, the KCB tour, the KQ tour, it's very different. So those are the things that we really have to consider first.
Matthew Mondi was making his second professional show at the Kenya Open, and despite finishing a poor 63rd, he's glad he made the cut.
And in the Open and any tournament, one must be having that game plan in order for him to know what to work on, what to do at that particular time. Yeah.
The wait for Kenyan to lift the Kenya Open title stays on, while the tournament continues to be a perfect hunting ground for foreign players. Lynn Washira, KTN.
All right, so let's get into your feedback really quickly. By the way, it was great that Manchester United won. Let me tell you, nowadays I'm such a closet fan because of our dismal performance, but it's good stuff tonight.
You should be balanced when reporting these things.
I'm not reporting it, you see? I'm not reporting. All right, let's get into the feedback really quickly on Checkpoint. We're taking a look at 2 years of Jubilee's administration. I've written some of your tweets here because there are far too many, and we thank you for the feedback. Irene Buru says, the president already publicly released the list of shame. So what does Mbadi want? Does he want him to cuff them personally or what? Let me just go through them very quickly. Maseme Machuka says, Jubilee promised and is quoting their manifesto here, any government's first duty is to keep its citizens safe and secure from harm. Are we safe now? Benjamin Sule says, so Jubilee's argument for being corrupt is that CORD is also corrupt. And finally, on my end, PSCU, that's the Presidential Service Communications Unit, says, yes, the laptop project will take off. Priscilla Nyokabi is right in response to what she said right here when we had it.
I'm trying to go through as much as I can, but there's so many, so I'll just start with the first one that I see. Helen Jawuna says, Uhuru has demystified the presidency. That's a plus, right? On Checkpoint, quite a number of people say the same. Everyday Kenyans need a champion. Our leaders try to be that champion, even for the wrong reasons. I'm guessing that comes out of the debate. Well, there's quite a bit here that I'm trying to go through, but I think you captured the essence of of what people were talking about this evening on Checkpoint. But keep your feedback coming. Those conversations that have started here on Checkpoint don't need to end with the end of the show. You can continue debating these things online and hopefully spur good conversation around what needs to be done, what isn't being done, what has been done, what has been done the right way, wrong way. I mean, you can look at it in many different ways.
Okay, so that's it. We thank you for joining us, and thanks so much for your feedback as always. This has been The Point of News. We wish you a great week ahead. Be blessed. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole.
My name is John Allen Namu. Have a good evening and a great week ahead. Good night.